All right, hey, Rio here. It's week 6 attendance, and I'm actually getting ready to work on week 7 content. But I wanted to take just a moment here to clarify one thing. As I read your feedback and your thoughts about Project Zero, is that the most misunderstood of this is something that I want to go over because just know this is that the idea of Project Zero is not to have you write a ton of content. Actually, the idea is twofold. One is to organize content into categories that become ultimately a menu in your Project Zero, and then to use content you've already written just to have each page content, but ultimately just to see how developing a website, how that process is. Because, yeah, the way we're going to do it is a very simple and basic way using Bootstrap. Now, today actually I spent some time doing some research about Bootstrap. So I hadn't realized until today, because I hadn't went and looked at it, that Bootstrap is still in alpha, and so alpha, beta, and then it goes into generally into production. Remember that semantic web, but Simver, but this is really that they're still working on it. But here's what I would say if you're somebody with experience, look at Bootstrap 4. And the other thing is I'm looking at the lynda.com for Bootstrap 4 from Ray Villalobos, and I think that's more than for this class we need to do. So I'm actually looking at an alternative way for us to learn Bootstrap. And I think what we're going to do, and it's kind of what I'd already had in the flow, but instead of using Lynda, we're going to end up using, I think, a couple of YouTube videos, and then have you go out and grab a template and then just have you learn your template as a way to learn Bootstrap. But again, these are just ways that I look at the content and try to find new and hopefully, improved ways to help you integrate this knowledge, because there's so many aspects of this. And I talk to people, local tech community Bitwise. I mean, they still use Bootstrap. I talk to Google Developer Groups members who they still see a benefit of Bootstrap. I talk to Todd, and I know that Todd teaches, what we call pure platform HTML and CSS, and that's great, right? And then you need that, and that's what he will teach when you get to the next class. So, I just feel it's important because A, it allows us to develop something quickly, and B, you're probably going to see it in the world just because it's so prevalent out there. So that's why I do it. But stepping back, I want to just quickly give you, and let me move to Project Zero here, is the idea of how much writing you're going to have to do. So you're going to have your index page for your Project Zero. It needs to have some content, just basically an overview of, your approach, whatever thoughts you have about what you've created. And then you're going to have this menu. Right? Now this menu is ultimately going to flow out of these categories that you're going to break this content into. And this week, in week 6, I actually have you draft what that would be. So then you'll take these categories and you'll build out, based on the content that flows into these categories, 21 pages. But minus the index file and a page for each menu, right? So a page for each of these. So that's, let's say it's 4, right? So 4 menu pages with 150 and 1 index with 200. The rest of that content is the intention as it comes from stuff you've already written. Okay, because again, the idea is not for you to write a lot of content. The idea is to get the experience of actually building something, getting your hands in the code, figuring out how to link pages together. I mean, these are just, and again, this is a very basic way of doing sites. You're going to learn through your career and through the next stages, if you continue on in this path, in this degree path or whatever, different ways to build sites. This is just your very basic, okay? And we'll talk about images. That will be something we'll talk about soon. So I just wanted you to have that in your head, is that's the idea, is not to write a ton of content, okay? All right, so that's your week 6 download of that. Hopefully that helps you understand. But actually, let me just show you one more thing before I end. I actually have this up. So here's the example of a Bootstrap just example, right? So for you, ultimately, these menu items, right, or these categories will become menu items. So then on each page, that's when you would have some original content, and then the sub pages out of them. And I'll actually end up having you build a sitemap later in the next week or so. Is that taking all the content, breaking it into these categories that ultimately become menu items, right? And then building out a simple site. Now I'm going to actually again have you go find a template site, and the key to finding a template site is finding something that you feel you can modify. In order to do that, you have to have some basic bootstrap. And so what I've decided is, instead of using that lynda.com course, because I think it's more than what we need, is we're going to go a little more general, but also combine that with actually doing some analysis of a template that you choose. Okay? Anyway, it's always a process to create new content, and so it's Saturday, and that's what I'm working on. So I'm going to release this a little early to give you a chance to understand my feedback and my thinking about Project Zero. And thanks so much for watching. Please hit a reply and say yes, I understand. Or if you have any other questions, this will be a great place to put those. Okay? All right. Peace out.